Hello, everyone. In the conversation that Father Conlon and I had with Father Fred Dolan, we posed a question to him about distractions and deep work, because everybody struggles with distractions, and it affects the work we do, whether it's at the office or that formal time during the day, or even the work around the house or the work around, the outside of the house. So he spoke a little bit about concentrated work. So I invite you to watch this clip and see how Father Dolan responds to this question about dealing with deep work and distractions. And then I'll come back and make a commentary.
Well, this, I think, is one of the biggest challenges of our day, because so many people think that we're supposed to be distracted now. We're supposed to be available and reachable at all times, which is a recipe for going nuts. And for younger ones, for people of student age, well, it's also a recipe for just not retaining all that much. There's a book I appreciate a great deal, which is called Deep Work, by a professor of computer science at Georgetown by the name of Cal Newport. It's a very short book. I think it's a very important book, written just a few years ago, because his whole point is, unless we learn how to turn off distraction and really focus and concentrate, we will lose the capacity to concentrate and to focus, and we will lose the capacity to access certain parts of our brain where we think deeper and where we synthesize, we do all sorts of things that don't happen if we don't focus. And so he really puts his finger in the wound. He says if we spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness, we end up permanently reducing our capacity to do deep work. With students, what they end up doing with the big risk is they retain little, they end up frazzled, they end up not finishing their work because they're spending so much time doing all sorts of things that are really not essential. And then their university years and high school years are finished. And they haven't read, period. I'm seeing that now more and more. They just don't read. And all sorts of bad things come from that. There's a thinker by the name of Sertillange. We English speakers would say Sertillange, writing almost 100 years ago. He wrote a very important book called The Intellectual Life, where he talks about the importance of focusing. And the image he uses is one of converging rays. He says, let your mind become a lens, thanks to the converging rays of attention. Focus on what you should be focusing on, and then let your whole brain just be absorbed by that one thing. And he says learning requires intense concentration. Now, those who are listening who want to find out more about this kind of thing, there's a very important program called Optimal Work. If you just Google optimal work, you'll come across this. It's really a program, an approach to studying, to working, developed by a psychiatrist in Cambridge, Massachusetts, works at Harvard Medical School. He has been mentoring Harvard and MIT students for a number of years. And what he has discovered is these are very bright people who have not been shown how to work without any distraction for 1 hour. And so The whole point of his tutoring, his mentoring, has been to show them, to the extent that you can turn off all notifications, no distractions, and for 1 hour, just really, really, really focus, you won't believe how much you get done. And then you take a 10-minute break and do it again. And by 5 o'clock, you have finished all your classwork. You have time to be with your friends, sports. You have much more time. And you remember things, and you do the quality that you put out is a much greater quality.
So a few things that Father Dolan mentions. Maybe there's not something for for everyone, but I think there's something for each of us. For example, if you're a reader, the book by Cal Newport on deep work is excellent. I've read it, and even if you just get 10% of the book, there's so many good things in the book. So Deep Work by Cal Newport, strongly recommend it. If you like a bit of a meatier book, then this book by Sertelange, The Intellectual Life, was a Dominican. It's over 100 years old and is still in print. It's very good on cultivating, discipline of the mind. So it's there for somebody who might be inclined in that direction. There's also a website called Optimal Work. Optimal Work. And there are people, it's a paid service, but there is the opportunity to, for a month, I think, of a trial subscription. And people at the other end are willing to help you cultivate the art of deep work, by having that optimal work period. It's one of the biggest challenges of our day. So many people think that we're supposed to be distracted. The multitasking that's going on, the hyperlinks in our online books and articles and so on. We're just going all over the place, and it's like if I'm not distracted, I'm not connected. And yet we all feel that this is sucking our life out. It's sucking and draining our energies. This is really a recipe to go crazy. And if we spend too much time in frenetic work or shallowness, we permanently can damage our capacity to do deep work, which I think our heart and our mind longs for, because we know that's when we get the best out of ourselves. It's what you want your kids growing up with, because it'll help them to achieve the best marks they can get. And it's really not about the marks per se. It's about doing the best that they can do because of the effort they're trained properly to do it, and that usually will result in good to great marks. So I'm pretty sure that most of us know these things. We sense them. We're hardwired for them, I think. Here are some simple things that we can all strive to do. And you don't have to pay for this, but the Optimal Work site is a good site for you to try. Why not? You don't lose anything if you try it for a month and you don't want it, or you can't afford it. Say it's number one, put in our app schedule or appointment schedule that 1 hour for work. So actually block it off, 1 hour for work, whether it's the children coming home for school, or maybe it's a half an hour for the kids, whatever you sense or you discern they can do. But for adults, put in that 1 hour. That's the first thing. Number two is turn off notifications. Emails, put it on airplane mode. All right, just check the box that the emails, so you're not receiving emails, and knock off the text coming in off your computer if that's what happens, or your phone. Put it aside and block off time 1 hour. After the 1 hour, spend 10, maybe even 10, maximum 15 minutes of going through your emails, perhaps responding to some texts, and then if you need to, another hour of work. All right, concentrated work. And you're going to be antsy at first, so expect this, because our minds have been sort of, taken off track, as it were, and not been trained almost not to think in this kind of way, but it's really worth it. At least even the struggle, even the intention, the desire to do this is worth it. Do this until you have accomplished your homework or the paper you have to do or study that you're engaged in. And number four, have a book available to read. Look into what your children should read, and that will help them with their imagination. I talk to children often about this whenever I get the opportunity. More book time than screen time. Even if you're reading a book on a tablet, that's book time. That's not screen time. Screen time is like social media, surfing the net, they're playing PlayStations and, the video games and all that kind of stuff. There's time for that, although I would, caution surfing the web. We should have an intentional, and to be intentional when we go to the web. Like, I'm going for a book, I'm going for this website, this news article or whatever, and not just surfing the net. So have a book available and encourage your children to read. So I hope these points provide some helpful hints or points, tips to assist you and your children in finding the way to deep and more satisfying work. God bless you.